The text message arrived at 3:15 in the morning. A single photo attachment, no words, sent from a blocked number straight to Prince Harry's phone. What he saw on that screen made his blood run cold. Meghan, Prince Andrew, a yacht deck in Monaco, and a smile she swore she'd never given. Within minutes, palace insiders say Harry was pacing the marble floors of their Montecito mansion, phone gripped so tight his knuckles went white. Because this wasn't just any photo. This was the picture that proved everything he'd defended for years, everything he'd sacrificed his family for, might have been built on lies. And by sunrise, that photo would be on every front page in the world. But let's back up for a second, because this photo didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's been circulating in certain circles for years, whispered about in royal corridors, referenced in encrypted messages between palace aides, and sitting in the files of private investigators who've been quietly documenting Meghan's pre-royal life since before the engagement was even announced. Multiple sources say the royal family knew about this photo long before Harry did. They'd seen it, they'd discussed it, and they'd made the calculated decision to keep it from him, at least until now. Why? Because sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the one you use. It's the one everyone knows you're holding. And the palace, with centuries of experience in managing scandals, understood that this photo was best kept as insurance, a nuclear option that would only be deployed if the situation became untenable. Well, apparently, that moment has arrived. The image itself is surprisingly casual, which somehow makes it worse. Meghan's wearing a white linen dress, sunglasses pushed up on her head, holding a champagne flute. She's standing maybe 3 feet from Prince Andrew on what appears to be the deck of a luxury yacht. The Mediterranean sparkles behind them. Other faces blur in the background, people in designer swimwear, the kind of crowd that doesn't end up in photos unless someone wants them to. But it's the body language that's got experts talking. Meghan's leaning in mid-laugh, her hand gesturing toward Andrew like they're sharing some private joke. He's looking at her with that expression, the one where powerful men look at beautiful women they're trying to impress. There's familiarity there, comfort, history. Dr. Lillian Glass, a renowned body language expert who's analyzed thousands of celebrity interactions, broke down the photo for a major news outlet. She pointed out specific tells. The angle of Meghan's shoulders turned directly toward Andrew, suggesting engagement and interest. The lack of tension in her posture, indicating she felt comfortable in his presence. The proximity, less than an arm's length, which in social dynamics suggests either professional networking or personal familiarity. And most damning, the genuine smile. Not the practiced Hollywood smile Meghan's perfected for cameras, but the kind of natural expression that happens when someone's actually enjoying themselves. Glass concluded that whatever the nature of their interaction, it wasn't their first meeting. You don't have that level of ease with someone you just shook hands with.
The timestamp burned into the corner reads July 2016. That's the detail that's making Harry's lawyers sweat and pulling at every carefully constructed thread of the Sussex origin story. Because according to every interview, every carefully crafted timeline Meghan's team put out over the years, she and Harry didn't meet until that blind date set up in July 2016. The story's been told so many times it's become royal folklore. A mutual friend, fashion designer Misha Nonu or Violet von Westenholz, depending on which version you believe, set them up on a blind date in London. Meghan was supposedly this innocent actress, far removed from royal circles, living her quiet life in Toronto filming Suits, who just happened to get set up with a prince by a mutual friend. The narrative was perfect. She barely knew who he was. She'd never followed the royals. She had to Google him before their date. It was fate, kismet, a modern fairy tale. But this photo suggests something else entirely. It suggests that weeks, maybe even just days before meeting Harry, Meghan was already in Andrew's orbit,
already moving through those exclusive circles, already connected to the very family she'd later claimed knew nothing about her until Harry introduced them. The math doesn't work. The story doesn't hold, and Harry's starting to realize he might have been played from the very beginning. One royal correspondent who's covered the family for 3 decades told a podcast that when this photo first surfaced in palace circles back in 2017, senior aides brought it directly to the Queen. Her reaction, according to the source, was a long silence followed by a single question. Does Harry know? When told he didn't, she allegedly responded, "Perhaps it's best that way, for now." Translation: let him marry her, let the wedding happen, but keep the receipts. The person who leaked the photo stayed anonymous at first, using burner emails and encrypted file transfers. But sources close to the situation say it came from a former yacht crew member who'd been sitting on it for years. This wasn't just some deckhand with a grudge. This was a senior staff member who worked on luxury vessels catering to the ultra-wealthy and ultra-connected. These are people who see everything and say nothing, because discretion is how they keep their 6-figure salaries and invitations to work the next season. But eventually, even discretion has a price. Why release it now? Money, obviously. British tabloids apparently engaged in a silent bidding war that started at £50,000 and climbed past 6 figures before the photo was finally sold to a consortium of international outlets. But there's another angle insiders are whispering about, one that makes this whole situation even more calculated. This crew member reportedly tried to sell the photo back in 2018, right before the wedding. They were shut down hard, allegedly by someone with serious resources and legal muscle. Lawyers appeared out of nowhere, threatening career-ending lawsuits for invasion of privacy, theft of proprietary images, and breach of confidentiality agreements the crew member didn't even remember signing. The photo disappeared back into whatever vault or hard drive it had come from. Fast forward to now, and suddenly that same photo surfaces with no warning, no negotiation, just dropped into the public domain like a grenade with the pin already pulled. What changed? Some royal watchers think it's Fergie's doing, a final scorched earth move after feeling sidelined and disrespected for years, getting her revenge by letting Meghan's past speak for itself. Others believe it's palace approved, a strategic leak designed to finally separate Harry from Meghan without the crown getting their hands directly dirty. But there's a third theory that's gaining traction among those who understand how these power games actually work. What if it wasn't about Meghan at all? What if this was Andrew's team, desperate to rehabilitate his shattered reputation, trying to drag Meghan down to his level? If the public sees her as just another person who moved through his circle back then, maybe it normalizes his behavior, makes him less of a pariah and more just another wealthy man who attended the same parties as everyone else. It's twisted logic, but in the world of royal PR warfare, stranger strategies have been deployed. Either way, someone wanted this image out there, and whoever they are, they waited for the perfect moment when Meghan's Hollywood dreams were already crumbling, when her brand was already fragile, when one more blow could bring the whole thing crashing down. Harry's reaction wasn't just angry, it was volcanic. Neighbors in their exclusive Montecito enclave, where homes are separated by acres and privacy is the most valuable commodity, reported raised voices echoing across the canyon around 2 a.m. These aren't people who are easily disturbed or quick to gossip. These are tech billionaires, entertainment moguls, and old California money who chose Montecito specifically because nobody bothers anyone. So when multiple residents independently reported hearing what sounded like a major domestic dispute, it tells you just how explosive things got. One witness told a local blog they heard glass breaking, though that hasn't been confirmed and could have been anything. But the detail that is confirmed, according to palace sources who still maintain contact with Harry despite everything, is that he made a phone call that same morning. Not to his PR team, not to his lawyers, not to Meghan's handlers or crisis management squad, to William. The two brothers, who haven't spoken properly in over 2 years, who've communicated only through terse text messages and lawyers when absolutely necessary, suddenly had a conversation that lasted 40 minutes. Staff at Kensington Palace described William's face afterward as grim but unsurprised, like he'd been waiting for this exact phone call, knowing it would come eventually. The details of that conversation haven't leaked, and in today's royal landscape, where everything eventually gets out, that silence is telling. It suggests both brothers agreed to keep whatever was said between them private. But the outcome has leaked, through sources close to both sides. Harry reportedly told Meghan he needed the truth. All of it. Every connection, every event, every yacht party she ever attended, every royal or connected person she'd ever met before she met him. No more carefully curated versions of her past. No more strategic omissions. Just the full, unvarnished truth. And her response? According to people who know what happened in that early morning confrontation, she accused him of siding with his family over her. She called it a betrayal, said he was doing exactly what his family had always done, believing tabloid lies over her word. She told him the photo was taken out of context, that she barely knew Andrew, that it was just one of many industry events she attended back in her networking days, when she was trying to build connections in a cutthroat industry where knowing the right people could make or break your career. But here's what broke something inside Harry. What shattered whatever fragile trust was left. When he asked her a simple, direct question, why she'd never mentioned being at that specific party, in Monaco, on that specific yacht with that specific royal, she went silent. Not defensive, not explanatory, just silent. And in that silence, Harry heard everything she wasn't saying. Because if it was innocent, if it was just networking, if it meant nothing, why hide it? Why not mention it casually during all those conversations they must have had about her past, about her career, about how she ended up in the circles that eventually led to him? The silence said what words couldn't. There was more to the story. There had always been more to the story. By noon, Meghan's crisis PR machine kicked into overdrive with the kind of coordinated response that only comes from years of practice managing difficult narratives. Emergency Zoom calls pulled in publicists from LA, New York, and London, the heavy hitters who'd helped craft her image from ambitious actress to humanitarian duchess to independent brand mogul. These weren't junior associates. These were the crisis managers who'd handled celebrity scandals, corporate disasters, and political implosions. People who charged 5 figures just to join a call. The strategy session reportedly descended into chaos when one senior advisor, a woman who'd successfully navigated 3 major celebrity divorces and 2 political sex scandals, suggested Meghan do something radical. Tell the truth. Not the carefully spun truth, but the actual truth. Release a statement acknowledging the photo, explaining that yes, she'd attended industry events in her pre-royal life, and that occasionally those events included people who were connected to various circles, including royal ones. She refused. Absolutely, categorically refused. Instead, she wanted to threaten legal action, sue for invasion of privacy, claim the image was doctored or the timestamp was fake. Her lawyers, people who'd been fielding her calls for years and billing by the minute, apparently tried explaining that threatening to sue would only make it a bigger story. That in 2016, she was a private citizen at a semi-public event, which meant she had almost no legal ground to stand on. That maritime law and international photography rights made the whole thing a legal nightmare they couldn't win. But Meghan wasn't hearing it. Sources say she raised her voice, something she rarely does in professional settings, insisting they make it go away the same way they'd made other things disappear before. That comment reportedly made several people in the Zoom call very uncomfortable. What other things? What else had been disappeared? One publicist, a veteran of 30 years in the business, muted herself, turned off her camera, and quietly quit the call. She sent a resignation email that same afternoon, professional but firm, citing irreconcilable differences in strategic approach. In PR speak, that's the equivalent of running for the exits. Another team member, a younger associate who'd been thrilled to work with the Duchess just 2 years ago, followed suit within hours. By the end of the day, Meghan's damage control team had shrunk by 3 people. And in the small, insular world of high-level crisis management, word spread fast. By that evening, other publicists in the industry were quietly advising clients that the Sussex account might not be worth the headache anymore. Because in this industry, when your own PR reps start jumping ship, you're not just in trouble, you're finished. Your reputation is cooked, and every remaining person on your team is updating their resume.
The palace's response has been a masterclass in strategic silence, the kind of calculated non-reaction that only an institution with centuries of experience could pull off. No statements, no denials, no anonymous palace sources doing cleanup interviews in the press, no carefully worded responses from official channels, just complete, calculated radio silence. And it's brilliant, because every hour they say nothing, the photo gets more attention. Every headline screaming for royal comment goes unanswered, which makes the photo seem more legitimate. Every day Meghan scrambles to explain herself while the palace stays quiet, she looks more guilty, more desperate, more isolated. King Charles, who spent 2 years trying to extend olive branches to Harry, trying to maintain some connection with his son while also protecting the institution, reportedly drew a line. In a private conversation, facilitated through intermediaries because Harry still won't take direct calls from his father, Charles told Harry that he would always be his son, would always be welcomed back with open arms if he chose to return, but that the institution, the monarchy itself, could no longer be collateral damage from Meghan's past. Translation? Choose. Choose your marriage or choose your family. Choose your wife or choose your legacy. Choose Montecito or choose to come home. It's the ultimatum Harry's been avoiding for 2 years, but now it's here, delivered with the kind of quiet finality that suggests this is the last offer. William's been even more direct with his silence. He's continued his royal duties with Catherine by his side, appearing at events, doing charity work, raising his children in the public eye, living the life Harry walked away from with apparent ease and contentment. The contrast is deliberate and devastating. While Meghan fights to control a narrative about her past, William and Catherine embody the future of the monarchy, stable, dignified, focused on service rather than celebrity. And the public is noticing.
Meanwhile, Prince Andrew's team has gone into their own version of damage control, scrambling to contain a situation that threatens to drag him back into the headlines for all the wrong reasons, just when he thought he'd finally found some measure of anonymity. Andrew's already a pariah after the Epstein scandal, exiled from public life, stripped of his military titles and royal patronages, living in relative isolation at Royal Lodge. He's been trying to stay out of the headlines, keep his head down, and wait for public memory to fade. But having his name linked to Meghan right now is a PR nightmare nobody on his side wanted. His lawyers have apparently been working overtime to establish that the photo shows nothing inappropriate, that Andrew attended hundreds of yacht parties over the years in his role as a working royal and trade envoy, and can't be expected to remember every person who was there or every interaction he had. But that defense actually makes things worse for Meghan. Because if Andrew barely remembers her, if she was just one face in a crowd of hundreds he met over the years, why does the photo show such familiarity? Why does the body language read as comfortable and personal, rather than formal and distant? The defense contradicts the image, and when the defense contradicts what people can see with their own eyes, the defense loses. Behind closed doors, sources say King Charles is furious that Andrew's past continues to haunt the family like a ghost that won't stay buried. Every time they think they've moved past it, another connection surfaces, another photo emerges, another reminder that Andrew's judgment and associations were catastrophically poor for years. And now it's pulling Harry's marriage into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, creating impossible optics and forcing conversations nobody in the palace wants to have. There are whispers, quiet but persistent, that the palace is preparing documentation, not for public release, not yet, but a comprehensive timeline of events, a detailed accounting of Meghan's movements and connections in the years before she met Harry, guest lists from events she attended, flight records showing international travel, social media archaeology revealing deleted posts and scrubbed connections, financial records showing payments from sources she never disclosed. The works. They're not threatening to release it. They're just making sure everyone, especially Meghan's team, knows it exists. That's the kind of power move that doesn't require words or press releases. It's the loaded gun sitting on the table that nobody touches, but everyone sees. And the message is clear: escalate this at your own risk. But here's what nobody's saying out loud yet, what's being discussed in private WhatsApp groups and encrypted email chains, but hasn't hit mainstream coverage. This photo raises questions that go way beyond one yacht party in Monaco. If Meghan was in Andrew's social circle in 2016, who introduced them? These kinds of connections don't happen by accident. You don't just stumble onto a yacht with royals. Someone facilitates, someone connects, someone vouches for you. So who was Meghan's connector? How many of these events did she attend? Was Monaco a one-time thing, or was this part of a regular circuit she traveled? And most importantly, most damningly, what did she know about Andrew's associations, his reputation, his connections to controversial figures before she ever met Harry? Because by 2016, Andrew's reputation was already tarnished in certain circles. People knew. The story circulated among the wealthy and connected. So did Meghan know? And if she did know, why was she there? Marcus Anderson, Meghan's close friend and the managing director of Soho House, has gone completely silent on social media. His Instagram, usually full of glamorous party photos, celebrity gatherings, fashion week appearances, and cryptic captions about living your best life, hasn't been updated in 3 weeks. For someone whose entire personal brand is built on being connected, being seen, being at the center of cultural conversations, that silence is screaming. People who know him, who've run in the same circles for years, say he's lawyered up, not because he's done anything illegal, but because he knows things. He was Meghan's connector to a world she desperately wanted access to. He was reportedly at many of the same events, the same parties, the same yacht gatherings. He knows the guest lists, the dynamics, the connections. If anyone can confirm or deny the extent of Meghan's connection to Andrew's world, if anyone can explain how deep these associations ran, it's Marcus Anderson. But he's not talking. He's not posting. He's not appearing at his usual haunts. And that silence is deafening. Then there's the guest list from that specific Monaco party, a document that apparently exists in multiple forms and multiple hands, but has never been made public. According to maritime records and social media archaeology from people who obsessively document these kinds of things, the yacht belonged to a prominent financier with connections to both Hollywood and European aristocracy. Not a household name, but the kind of person who moves billions, hosts the people who make headlines, and stays carefully out of the spotlight himself. The party wasn't secret, it wasn't hidden, but it was exclusive, the kind of event where everyone's someone, invitations are carefully controlled, and the photographers present are there by arrangement, not by paparazzi chance. Industry insiders say guest lists from these kinds of gatherings rarely surface because everyone involved has something to protect. A married actor who was there with someone who wasn't his wife. A tech billionaire who was there during a blackout period for stock trading. A politician who was there when they should have been somewhere else entirely. But one former attendee, speaking anonymously to a gossip blog, described the Monaco event in July 2016 as memorable because it was one of those rare occasions where multiple worlds collided. Several royals were there, not just Andrew. Actresses and models mixed with financiers and aristocrats. Hollywood agents networked with European titles. It was, in this person's words, a networking free-for-all where the usual social barriers came down and people made connections that wouldn't happen at more formal events. If that guest list ever goes public, and sources say at least 3 people have copies tucked away in safe deposit boxes or with lawyers, it won't just be Meghan's past under scrutiny. It'll be a who's who of uncomfortable connections that powerful people have spent years keeping quiet. The photo that leaked might just be the first domino, and once dominoes start falling, they don't stop until the whole chain is gone down. Harry's breaking point isn't coming. It's here. It's been building for months, maybe years, but the photo was the catalyst that turned pressure into explosion. Friends have managed to stay in touch with him. The few people from his old life who haven't been cut off completely say he's different now. The spark that made him the fun prince, the soldier who joked with his squadron, the royal who could light up a room with his energy and charisma, it's gone, extinguished. He looks tired, worn down, hollow, like a man who's been fighting a battle he's not sure he can win anymore, and is starting to question whether he should even keep trying. The photo wasn't just embarrassing, it wasn't just another tabloid scandal. It was clarifying. It was evidence. It was a crack in the foundation that, once revealed, makes you question the entire structure. Because for 2 years, Harry's defended Meghan against every accusation, every rumor, every whisper about her past. He called it racism, he called it misogyny, he called it tabloid lies. He accused his family of briefing against her, the press of pursuing her unfairly, the public of judging her without knowing the truth. He burned bridges with his family, his country, his former life, alienated people who'd known him since childhood because he believed in her version of events. He believed her story. He believed she was the victim. But this photo, time-stamped and verified, coming from a source with no apparent connection to the palace or the tabloids, distributed through channels that suggest someone with resources and legal protection, it's different. It's not a tabloid spin. It's not an anonymous source making claims. It's evidence. Physical, visual, dated evidence. And evidence is harder to explain away. Evidence requires truth, not spin. Separation rumors have been swirling for months, whispered in LA coffee shops, discussed on royal watching forums, debated by commentators who followed this story since the beginning. But now they're gaining real traction. Body language experts who've analyzed recent public appearances frame by frame say Harry and Meghan barely touch anymore. When they do appear together, which is increasingly rare, he stands slightly apart, not overtly distant, but not connected either. His smiles don't reach his eyes, his body angles away from her. He lets her do all the talking, sitting silently beside her like a prop in someone else's production. Their solo appearances have multiplied exponentially. Harry doing veteran events alone, attending charity functions without her, traveling internationally for Invictus Games work while she stays in California. Meghan doing her Hollywood networking without him, appearing at fashion shows solo, hosting events for her brand where Harry's nowhere to be seen. They're living increasingly separate lives under the same roof, like roommates who've run out of things to say to each other but haven't figured out how to separate yet. One Montecito local, speaking to a regional newspaper, claimed they've seen Harry leaving the property early in the morning, sometimes not returning until late at night. Where's he going? Some think he's just driving, taking long trips up the Pacific Coast Highway, trying to clear his head, finding solitude and movement. Others believe he's meeting with advisors, lawyers, people who can help him figure out what comes next. Because at some point, staying becomes harder than leaving. The pain of remaining in a situation that's destroying you becomes greater than the fear of change. And Harry's starting to do that math. He's starting to count the cost of staying versus the cost of going. And for the first time since he left London, the numbers are starting to tip. There's one more secret that people close to the situation say could still surface. One more bomb waiting to detonate. Another photo. Not from Monaco this time, but from a different event. A different yacht. A different year. This one allegedly more damaging than the first, showing Meghan at a different party with Andrew, but this time with other controversial figures clearly visible in the frame. People whose names have been connected to scandals, whose reputations are toxic, whose presence in any photo is immediate cause for questions. The person who supposedly has this image has been shopping it around for weeks, reaching out to outlets, dangling the story, trying to start another bidding war. But so far, no outlet has been willing to verify it or pay the asking price. The fear is obvious. If they run it and it turns out to be fake, doctored, or misleadingly framed, they face massive lawsuits. Some editors think it's fake, leverage in a game of photographic blackmail, someone trying to cash in on the feeding frenzy around the first image. Others believe it's real, but too explosive to publish without ironclad verification from multiple sources, forensic analysis, and legal teams signing off. Because if it exists, if it's real, if it's as damaging as described, it won't just damage Meghan. It'll destroy what's left of Harry's credibility completely. It'll make him look either complicit or catastrophically naive. It'll raise the question that nobody wants to ask, but everyone will be thinking, what else did she lie about? What else is buried in her past? What else is waiting to surface?